Hello, welcome to my channel. Before we start, it's a good idea to get into bed and relax. I would also like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, like it, and write in the comments where you are from and what time it is. Thank you. Have a nice viewing. In this story, you will follow a single day in the life of Zeus, the mighty king of the gods. From the moment the sun rises over Mount Olympus to the quiet, reflective night when the stars fill the sky, you will witness how the god of thunder manages the affairs of both gods and mortals. You will see Zeus awaken in his golden palace, his eyes opening to a world full of power, responsibility, and occasional mischief. You will accompany him as he listens to the petitions of humans, mediates quarrels among gods, and reflects on the intricate balance of the universe. Through this tale, you will experience the majestic beauty of Olympus, the storms that dance across the heavens at his command, and the quiet moments of contemplation that remind even the mightiest god of the fragility of life. Each scene will immerse you in the textures of the divine, the shimmer of sunlight on marble, the soft rustle of olive leaves, the distant echo of mortal prayers rising toward the sky. This story is not only a glimpse into the divine power of Zeus, but also a journey into his thoughts, feelings, and choices. As you travel with him through his day, you will discover that even gods have moments of doubt, curiosity, and reflection. Prepare yourself to step beyond the clouds, to hear the crackle of thunder up close, and to witness the life of Zeus as it unfolds, 1 hour, one encounter, one thought at a time. The first light of dawn stretched gently over the peaks of Mount Olympus, spilling gold and rose across the marble halls of the gods. Zeus stirred from his slumber, the weight of his thunderbolt resting lightly on the bed beside him. Even as the king of gods, he felt the calm anticipation of a new day, a moment suspended between dreams and duties, where the heavens themselves seemed to breathe. As he rose, his feet touched the cool, polished floor, and the subtle scent of ambrosia lingered in the air, a reminder of the eternal feast that awaited the immortals. He gazed through towering windows at the mortal lands below, where cities awoke in quiet harmony, unaware of the watchful eyes above. Each movement of the sun mirrored the pulse of his own immense power, flowing softly, yet inexorably, through the world. Zeus's first thought was of balance, a responsibility heavier than any weapon he might wield. The disputes of gods, the whims of mortals, the delicate harmony of the elements, all these demanded his attention. Yet in this early hour, before the petitions and quarrels began, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. A breeze whispered through olive branches outside, and he imagined the mortal lives touched by his unseen hand. The echoes of Olympus stirred around him. Hera's laughter floated from her chambers, soft yet commanding, while Hermes darted through corridors, leaving trails of light and mischief. The palace hummed with life and anticipation. Zeus inhaled deeply, feeling the energy of immortality settle over him. It was a rhythm he had known for millennia, yet each day brought new patterns, new surprises, small or grand, that kept the gods ever vigilant. Breakfast was a quiet affair, shared with none but the winds themselves. Ambrosia and nectar replenished not only his body but his mind, sharpening his perception of every nuance in the world below. He reflected on yesterday's decisions. A city spared from storm, a mortal granted fortune, a titan's warning he had heeded. Each choice echoed through Olympus, subtle yet profound, reminding him that even the smallest act by a god could ripple endlessly. When his meal ended, Zeus approached the balcony, the thunderbolt now resting across his broad shoulders. Lightning danced faintly along its length, a heartbeat of raw, untamed energy. Below, valleys and rivers sparkled in the morning sun. The mortal world, vibrant and fragile, seemed a painting suspended in time, alive with motion yet still unaware of the god who watched silently from the clouds above. The first petitions of the day arrived with the wind. Prayers whispered from mountain shrines, songs carried from distant seas, cries of hope, fear, and desire. Zeus listened, his mind sorting each plea, measuring its weight, its worth, its potential consequences. The responsibility was immense, but he had long learned patience, the quiet understanding that even power required restraint, that justice must balance with mercy in ways mortals could scarcely imagine. As the sun climbed higher, he moved through his halls, greeting lesser gods who scurried to report news or seek counsel. Apollo approached, radiant as ever, bringing tidings of the east, while Demeter spoke softly of harvests and rains. Each encounter demanded wisdom, poise, and a subtle touch of authority. Zeus handled each gracefully, a serene smile on his face, concealing the calculation and vigilance beneath. By mid-morning, the palace thrummed with energy, and Zeus sensed the first signs of unrest below. A storm was gathering over a distant city, fueled by mortal hubris and unchecked desires. He raised his hand, feeling the familiar hum of electricity pulse through his veins. Yet he paused, considering the lesson hidden within the threat. Power without wisdom, he thought, is a storm that destroys indiscriminately. He decided to wait, to guide, not dominate, letting fate and choice intertwine before he intervened. Even the smallest creatures of Olympus acknowledged his presence. Birds alighted on sunlit ledges, their wings trembling in quiet reverence. Vines shifted as if bowing in the wind, and the rivers reflected glimmers of his thought, the rhythm of the heavens mirrored in every ripple. Zeus walked among these signs, a silent guardian, aware of the vastness of his responsibility and the subtle beauty of the life he oversaw. By late morning, Hermes returned with news of mortal affairs that required attention. Zealous cities, treacherous kings, heroic quests, all intertwined in a web of consequence. Zeus listened, weighing each tale, feeling the threads of fate connect with his will. Even as he considered punishment, reward, or guidance, he understood the delicate balance. Intervene too soon, and free will falters. Wait too long, and chaos reigns. Each decision demanded care, a precision only immortals could truly master. By now, the sun had fully illuminated Olympus, casting golden light on columns and fountains, glinting against Zeus's golden hair. He paused at the center of the palace courtyard, letting the wind dance across his face. The day stretched ahead, filled with duties, surprises, and reflections. Every hour promised encounters with gods, mortals, and titans alike. A reminder that even in eternity, each day is unique, each moment unrepeatable, a spark of life in the endless flow of time. As the morning progressed, Zeus turned his attention toward the mortal realm. From Olympus, the cities below looked serene, yet beneath their calm lay ambitions, quarrels, and desires that could ignite into chaos. He could sense the faint tremor of anxiety in the hearts of rulers and the hope that rose from humble villagers. His eyes, sharp and knowing, followed their lives like a gentle stream tracing every ripple. A distant village had ignored the sacred laws, leaving offerings neglected at their shrines. Zeus observed quietly, his mind weighing the lesson that must be taught. He did not move hastily. The wisdom of the ages had taught him that guidance through subtlety often had more effect than punishment through thunder. The mortals' choices, their courage or folly, were threads in the tapestry of fate, and even a god's hand must weave delicately. Below, farmers toiled under the sun, unaware of the presence of the mighty king above. Zeus watched a young woman lift a heavy basket of grain, her strength unnoticed by her neighbors yet shining in the eyes of the gods. Such moments of diligence and virtue were small jewels, glimmers of hope and order in the ever-shifting mortal world. Zeus allowed himself a faint smile, recognizing that even in imperfection, beauty and courage endured. A sudden commotion caught his attention. A storm began forming over the western hills, born not from nature alone but from mortal pride and conflict. Zeus raised his hand, feeling the raw energy of the storm respond to his will. Yet he paused, thinking in balance. A storm could destroy, but it could also teach, remind, and inspire reflection. He let the clouds gather, watching as mortals below sought shelter and prayed, unaware that their prayers reached the ears of the god who observed. Hermes returned, messenger swift and radiant, bearing news from travelers and adventurers. Zeus listened intently, feeling the threads of mortal fate interweave with divine intention. A hero was embarking on a journey, a king was plotting a conquest, and a village faced famine. Each story demanded careful consideration, each required wisdom to guide or restraint to watch. He knew the delicate harmony of influence and free will, a knowledge born from eons. Meanwhile, on Olympus, tensions brewed quietly among the gods themselves. Hera, meticulous and vigilant, voiced concerns over mortal interference, while Athena offered counsel on justice and strategy. Even mighty gods disagreed, their passions bubbling beneath polished exteriors. Zeus moved among them, his calm presence a reminder of authority tempered with patience. His eyes, like rolling skies, settled disagreements not through wrath but reason, a subtle mastery that few could rival. The young god Dionysus approached, laughter in his eyes and mischief in his voice. Yet even such levity carried lessons, as celebrations could both inspire and corrupt mortals alike. Zeus considered each encounter carefully, weighing consequences for gods and humans. Each smile, each jest, each whisper of wine and song in the mortal world had echoes in Olympus. Balance was maintained through vigilance, through observation, and through an understanding that influence was most effective when invisible yet decisive. By noon, the sun hung high, casting golden light across Olympus and the world below. Zeus observed the storm swelling over the western hills, its fury now tempered by his restraint. Lightning flashed faintly, a warning without devastation, teaching humility and patience. Mortals crouched in the shadow of their homes, their hearts pounding, prayers rising like smoke into the sky. Zeus felt the pulse of their emotions, the intertwined threads of fear and awe, and allowed them to endure this gentle trial. A messenger from the east brought news of a fledgling hero, a mortal who had performed an act of courage unknown to others. Zeus regarded this with interest, sensing potential in the young soul. Decisions about guidance or inspiration weighed on him. He could intervene subtly, a hint of fortune, or let events unfold naturally. Even gods must navigate the limits of influence with discretion, for the true value of mortal virtue was proven through choice and challenge. The palace of Olympus thrummed with activity as Zeus returned. Lesser gods scurried with requests, tales of mortal events, and small petitions. The king of gods listened patiently, offering insight and guidance. Some received favor, others caution. Each action was measured, deliberate, reflecting not only authority but understanding. The delicate equilibrium of Olympus depended on such precision, a reminder that divine power was most profound when exercised with wisdom rather than force. As the day stretched onward, Zeus felt the weight of eternity pressing gently, a reminder that each decision, each act of observation, rippled across realms. Even small gestures held meaning. A kind word to a god, a storm tempered over a village, a signal to a hero. His mind wandered briefly to reflection, considering how each day, though immense in its challenges, also offered quiet moments of insight and contemplation. By mid-afternoon, Zeus moved toward the cliffs overlooking the mortal plains, the wind carrying scents of olive trees, salt water, and distant fires. He contemplated the delicate balance of chaos and order, the interaction of mortal free will and divine guidance. The vastness of the world unfolded below, a living tapestry vibrant with action, each thread visible to his eternal gaze. The day's work, though not yet complete, flowed with the inevitability and rhythm of time itself. As the afternoon sun bathed Olympus in warm light, a ripple of tension stirred among the gods. A quarrel had erupted between Ares and Athena, each championing a different mortal city in their eternal games of strategy and honor. Zeus observed calmly from his throne, the weight of authority resting upon his shoulders. His presence alone tempered the rising heat, yet the dispute demanded careful judgment. Ares's voice, sharp and forceful, echoed through the hall, while Athena's words were precise, full of reason and clarity. The clash of perspectives reflected their essence, war and wisdom, impulse and calculation. Zeus leaned forward, his eyes like storm clouds, and the hall fell into a quiet reverence. Mortals below would never know the divine deliberations shaping their fates, yet every decision held the power to alter their lives profoundly. The king of gods raised a hand, letting a soft thunder roll through the air, a gentle reminder of his presence. Neither Ares nor Athena faltered, but a subtle acknowledgement passed between them. Zeus did not simply settle the dispute. He guided it, weaving the argument into understanding, revealing the consequences of pride, haste, or misjudgment. Wisdom was not imposed, it was illuminated, the hallmark of his reign. Hermes flitted between gods, carrying updates from the mortal world, each message a thread of possibility. A city faced famine, a king plotted betrayal, a hero stumbled in his quest. Zeus listened with serene intensity, feeling each pulse of fear, hope, or ambition. With a careful gesture, he sent a whisper of wind to guide travelers, a flash of lightning to warn the unwary, each act measured, deliberate, invisible yet decisive. Meanwhile, Hera approached, her expression calm yet piercing. She spoke of mortal injustices, of the imbalance caused by hubris and greed. Zeus nodded, absorbing her counsel, aware of her vigilance. Her concern was a mirror of his own responsibility, to govern not merely through power but through attention, perception, and subtle influence. Olympus thrived because each god played a part, yet the ultimate balance rested with him. In the gardens, Dionysus celebrated life with laughter and song, calling upon mortals and spirits alike. Yet even his joy carried lessons, for excess and revelry could tip the scales toward chaos. Zeus allowed the celebrations to continue, observing the interplay of joy, temptation, and restraint. Life, he reflected, was an intricate dance of choices, and divine intervention must be careful, precise, and insightful. A sudden disturbance caught his attention. A titan, long thought dormant, stirred in a remote mountain pass. Zeus felt the tremor in his bones, the echo of ancient power calling for attention. The gods sensed it too, their unease palpable. Zeus's hand rested lightly on his thunderbolt, a reminder of his ultimate authority. Yet he paused. Even for a king of gods, patience could be mightier than action, and observation often revealed more than immediate engagement. He walked the halls of Olympus, meeting gods who sought guidance, correction, or subtle encouragement. Each interaction, though brief, shaped the flow of events across realms. Apollo shared visions of mortal aspirations, Demeter spoke of harvests threatened by neglect, Hephaestus brought news of creations that could either bless or endanger. Zeus absorbed all, his mind a vast lattice of cause and effect, every decision precise, every gesture intentional. By late afternoon, the storm in the western hills had calmed, leaving rain-kissed earth below. Mortals emerged cautiously, learning humility and patience from the trial, unaware that their lives had been touched gently by a god's guidance. Zeus observed the transformation, the subtle shaping of mortal character, and allowed a faint smile to play across his face. Influence, exercised with restraint, often bore the most profound results. Conflict among gods continued in quieter corridors. Athena debated strategy with Hermes. Apollo and Artemis exchanged concerns over the mortal arts and nature. Zeus moved among them like a steady wind, observing, guiding, never imposing unnecessarily. Leadership, he understood, required more than power. It demanded perception, empathy, and foresight. Even gods, for all their immortality, required direction to maintain harmony. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Zeus climbed to the highest peak of Olympus, the world below bathed in amber light. He paused, letting the wind whip across his face, listening to the murmur of rivers, the rustle of forests, and the distant hum of human lives. Each sound was a note in the symphony of existence, and he, as conductor, ensured its melody remained balanced, beautiful, and alive. Evening approached, yet the day's duties were far from complete. Zeus knew that mortal trials, divine disputes, and the delicate equilibrium of the elements demanded his ongoing attention. Each decision, small or grand, shaped the tapestry of life below and the harmony above. In the quiet moments of reflection atop Olympus, he recognized the magnitude of eternity, the weight of responsibility, and the subtle joy of guiding a universe that trusted, even unknowingly, in his care. As the sun leaned toward the horizon, Zeus turned his attention once more to the mortal world, where brave deeds and reckless folly intertwine. A young hero, unaware of the eyes that watched him from Olympus, struggled against a fearsome beast in a dense forest. Zeus observed, sensing both the mortal courage and the delicate balance between life and danger. He could see the hero's heartbeat, each choice a thread in the vast tapestry of fate. One misstep could bring disaster, yet perseverance might bring honor, wisdom, or survival. Zeus weighed the possibilities, deciding how subtly to intervene. Sometimes guidance was a whisper, a glimmer of insight. Other times, the raw force of thunder and storm was necessary to ensure the course of destiny remained balanced. Lightning flickered faintly across the sky as Zeus raised his hand, testing the currents of energy that coursed through his veins. Nature responded instantly. The leaves rustled, the winds shifted, and distant clouds darkened in perfect harmony. He knew the mortal could not see him, but the world itself could teach, nudge, and challenge. Intervention, measured and precise, could transform fear into courage and despair into resolve. Meanwhile, on Olympus, tension simmered between gods who sought influence over mortals. Athena argued for wisdom, Hera for justice, and Ares for boldness and action. Zeus moved among them, a calm presence that steadied tempers and clarified thought. He did not dominate, yet his authority radiated in subtle ways, guiding discussion toward understanding rather than conflict. Leadership was as much about observation as action, and patience often bore greater fruit than immediate force. A mortal village nearby faced hardship, crops failing and water dwindling. Zeus observed their suffering, weighing the lesson to be imparted against the need for compassion. He could summon rain to restore life, but restraint sometimes carried more meaning than mercy. Observing the villagers' ingenuity, resilience, and prayer, he allowed them to discover solutions themselves, letting mortal courage and wisdom blossom under divine watchfulness. At the same time, the young hero in the forest faced the beast head-on. Each clash, roar, and movement was mirrored in Zeus's mind as he considered the hero's potential. He sent a subtle breeze to shift the scent of the beast, a faint spark of courage to steady the hero's hand. The interaction was delicate, precise, and unseen, a dance of influence without overt dominance. The lesson, the growth, and the achievement must belong to the mortal entirely. Hermes returned, reporting news of mortal ingenuity and folly alike. Zealous kings plotted, merchants argued over trade, and villages celebrated victories small and grand. Zeus listened, absorbing each ripple of consequence, knowing that even minor choices could reshape destinies in unexpected ways. His thoughts flowed like lightning through the web of life, mapping outcomes and possibilities with the clarity of divine foresight. Dionysus celebrated in distant fields, laughter spilling over hills, while Apollo observed mortal songs and prayers with quiet delight. Zeus watched both, appreciating the balance of joy and devotion. Influence did not always require intervention. Sometimes it required allowing mortals to feel, to strive, and to learn naturally. The interplay between divine presence and mortal action was delicate, like the tuning of a symphony where every note mattered. As evening deepened, Zeus climbed once again to the highest terrace of Olympus. His eyes swept the horizon, from mortal cities to distant seas, observing storms, heroes, and the quiet growth of crops. Each action, each decision, resonated through the world below. Even as the day drew toward its close, responsibility remained unyielding. The balance of justice, fortune, and fate rested in his hands, a weight he bore with serene vigilance. A faint thunder rolled through the air, a subtle reminder of his power. Mortals paused, looking skyward, unaware of the god who watched. Zeus allowed the storm to play its part, teaching humility and patience, shaping courage and reflection. The elements themselves became instruments of guidance, harmony, and revelation, demonstrating the interplay of mortal action and divine influence. By nightfall, Olympus glowed with the soft light of stars, the golden halls illuminated by the shimmer of moonlight. Zeus reflected on the day's events, the hero's trials, the villager's perseverance, the lessons imparted through subtle storms and divine nudges. Each moment held meaning, each choice bore consequence, and every interaction was a thread in the endless weave of existence. The first phase of evening offered quiet conversations with Athena, Hera, and other gods, reviewing mortal affairs, divine disputes, and subtle manipulations of fate. Zeus's guidance was measured, his judgment tempered by reflection, patience, and foresight. Even in eternity, each day demanded attention, care, and awareness of the consequences of every action, no matter how small. As stars filled the sky, Zeus allowed himself a moment of solitude, standing on Olympus's highest peak. The world below breathed in rhythm with him, rivers, forests, mountains, and cities alive in quiet harmony. He closed his eyes, sensing the subtle balance of existence, aware of both the weight of responsibility and the joy of guiding creation. Even the mightiest god found peace in reflection, in the soft murmur of the world, and in the knowledge that his vigilance shaped destiny itself. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in shades of amber and crimson, Zeus retreated to the highest halls of Olympus. Here, away from the bustle of gods and mortals, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Each day, though eternal in repetition, presented unique challenges, subtle lessons, and fleeting glimpses of mortal courage. He gazed over the mortal lands, where shadows lengthened across forests, rivers, and cities. The world below moved with its own rhythm, oblivious to the vigilant eyes above. Yet every prayer, every act of bravery, and even every folly echoed through the heavens, intertwining with the threads of destiny that Zeus tended so carefully. His thoughts roamed through the day's events, weighing consequences, measuring subtle influences, and finding balance in the unseen patterns of life. A gentle breeze rustled through olive trees and marble columns alike, carrying with it faint whispers of mortal desires and divine tidings. Zeus inhaled deeply, savoring the scent of ambrosia lingering in the palace air, feeling the hum of latent thunder within him. Even in stillness, his presence radiated power, a quiet assurance that the order of Olympus and the mortal world alike rested securely under his watch. Hermes arrived with evening messages from distant lands. Stories of heroism, mistakes, and mortal devotion were recounted with urgency and delight. Zeus listened attentively, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Intervention was always a delicate choice. Sometimes fate demanded a guiding hand. Other times, patience was the greatest lesson. The balance of power, wisdom, and mercy weighed upon his shoulders, heavy yet familiar. The first stars appeared above Olympus, shimmering softly against the deepening indigo sky. Zeus extended his hand, and lightning danced faintly across his fingertips, illuminating the contours of his face with a soft, ethereal glow. He allowed a small display of divine magic, a gentle reminder that even in reflection, the king of gods wielded power that could shape worlds, command storms, or inspire awe in mortals and immortals alike. Nearby, lesser gods moved through their evening duties. Athena reviewed mortal strategies. Apollo adjusted the flow of celestial music, and Demeter guided the growth of crops still basking in the sun's last warmth. Zeus watched them, sensing the delicate harmony of Olympus in motion. Even the smallest acts of diligence among the gods contributed to the stability of the universe. Balance was maintained not only through thunderbolts but through the quiet rhythm of daily responsibility. A distant mortal hero had completed a feat unknown to others, his bravery witnessed only by the watchful god above. Zeus smiled faintly, knowing that reward must often come unseen, the true value of courage proven through struggle and perseverance. He considered subtle interventions, a flicker of inspiration, a gentle wind to guide, a hint of fortune. Each act measured, precise, and invisible, leaving mortals to claim their own triumphs. Evening on Olympus carried a unique serenity. The golden halls reflected the fading sunlight, fountains glimmered like liquid crystal, and the soft murmur of gods settling into quieter tasks filled the air. Zeus wandered among them, offering counsel, encouragement, and subtle correction where needed. Leadership, he reflected, was a blend of authority, patience, and foresight, an eternal dance that shaped worlds without overwhelming them. The distant thunder of storms over mortal lands reminded him of the day's earlier decisions. Lightning had guided, tested, and reminded humans of their place in the grand design, yet without devastation. Balance was the ultimate goal, and every storm, every whisper of wind, every gentle nudge of fortune served to teach humility, patience, and wisdom. Zeus felt the harmony ripple through the world below, a silent satisfaction stirring in his chest. As twilight deepened, Zeus paused on the balcony overlooking the western plains. The mortal lands glimmered in fading light, the rivers reflecting stars yet to emerge. He reflected on the day's lessons: mortal courage, divine patience, and the endless interplay of choice, consequence, and fate. Each encounter, subtle or dramatic, had left its mark, contributing to the intricate web of life he had long nurtured with care. The evening air carried a soft fragrance of flowers, distant seas, and the subtle warmth of mortal fires. Zeus allowed himself a quiet moment to appreciate the beauty of existence. Even the mightiest god found solace in reflection, in the gentle hum of life, and in the knowledge that his vigilance, subtle guidance, and occasional displays of power shaped a universe alive with wonder, challenge, and endless possibility. As darkness spread across the mortal lands, Olympus glimmered under the soft glow of moonlight. Zeus descended from the highest terraces to the inner halls, where the quiet of night invited reflection and preparation. Even in the absence of the sun, his presence radiated authority, a reminder to gods and mortals alike that vigilance never rested. The mortal world, now cloaked in shadow, revealed hidden fears and secret ambitions. Travelers struggled through forests, fires flickered in distant villages, and heroes faced dangers unseen during the day. Zeus observed each thread of action, weighing consequences, and considering how best to guide or test them. Night was not merely rest, it was a continuation of responsibility, subtle yet profound. Hermes arrived with urgent messages from across lands bathed in twilight. Tales of betrayal, bravery, and peril filled the air. Zeus listened intently, feeling the pulse of mortal hearts and the sway of fate in every story. A cautious nudge here, a flicker of divine lightning there, could tip outcomes gently, teaching lessons while preserving free will. Power, he reminded himself, was as much restraint as action. The first stars twinkled above, distant yet precise, each a reminder of the vastness of existence. Zeus extended his hand, and soft sparks of lightning danced along his fingertips, illuminating his contemplative expression. Even in serenity, he could command storms, guide heroes, and influence fate. Night offered opportunity for subtle action, lessons imparted unseen, and the quiet shaping of mortal destiny. Meanwhile, conflicts on Olympus simmered quietly. Ares challenged Hephaestus over the construction of divine weapons, while Athena debated strategy with Apollo. Zeus moved among them, observing without haste, guiding without force. Authority was not dominance. It was the quiet art of seeing clearly, timing interventions perfectly, and allowing the natural course of events to unfold under careful supervision. A mortal hero struggled alone in the mountains, facing creatures of shadow and fear. Zeus felt the trembling of his heart, the strain of his courage, and the weight of destiny pressing upon him. He chose subtle guidance, a shift of wind to reveal a path, a spark of insight to steady a hand, leaving the hero's triumph entirely earned. Growth, he understood, must come through choice, struggle, and perseverance, not divine imposition. The storms of earlier days still whispered across the western hills, now softened to gentle rains that nourished the earth. Zeus considered their lessons, realizing that even minor trials carried profound meaning. Mortals learned humility, patience, and resilience through these quiet tests. A god's true power lay not in destruction alone, but in the shaping of life, character, and understanding through invisible influence. Evening rituals began quietly among the gods. Demeter tended to the growth of nocturnal crops. Apollo guided the movement of celestial lights, and Dionysus celebrated quietly in distant groves. Zeus walked among them, offering counsel, encouragement, and the occasional subtle correction. Harmony required balance in both mortal and divine realms, and his vigilant presence ensured it was maintained even in the stillness of night. A faint rumble of thunder rolled across Olympus, soft and deliberate. Mortals below glanced skyward, feeling awe and wonder without understanding its origin. Zeus allowed the display to unfold, teaching respect and attentiveness. Even unseen, the influence of a god could guide, shape, and inspire. The threads of fate, carefully observed and occasionally adjusted, wove a tapestry of lessons, courage, and consequence across the mortal world. As night deepened, Zeus paused on a terrace, gazing across the sleeping lands. Rivers glimmered under moonlight, forests murmured in quiet harmony, and villages rested, oblivious yet secure under his watch. Reflection filled him with both satisfaction and anticipation. Night, though calm, demanded attention. Hidden threats, unseen heroics, and subtle shifts in mortal hearts required a god's vigilance as much as the bright hours of day. Finally, he retreated to a quiet chamber, allowing himself a moment to feel the pulse of Olympus and the mortal world. Thoughts of the day's lessons, the hero's trials, the storms, and divine disputes mingled with the soft hum of the night. Even a god's eternity could be measured in these fleeting, reflective hours, moments of awareness, insight, and gentle guidance, shaping worlds in ways both subtle and profound. As the night deepened, Olympus became a realm of soft silver light, where shadows danced gently across marble halls and fountains glimmered under starlight. Zeus wandered slowly through the palace, each step measured, absorbing the serene hush of evening. Even kings of gods found solace in quiet reflection, and tonight offered him space to ponder the day's lessons. The mortal world slept beneath his watchful gaze, rivers reflecting moonlight, cities quiet, and heroes resting after trials. Zeus considered the victories, missteps, and choices of the day. Each mortal act, each subtle guidance he had offered, was a thread woven into the vast tapestry of existence. His thoughts moved across distant lands, tracking consequences invisible to human eyes. Conflicts among gods had quieted. Athena and Ares had reached mutual understanding, guided subtly by Zeus's hand. Apollo and Artemis reflected on mortal arts and celestial movements. Hephaestus continued his divine craftsmanship. Harmony, though delicate and sometimes elusive, had been maintained. Zeus walked among them, his presence a steadying force, his judgment exercised with patience and wisdom. He paused at the balcony overlooking the mortal plains. Soft winds carried whispers of prayer, gratitude, and quiet concern from the villages below. Zeus inhaled deeply, sensing the rhythm of life, the interplay of courage, fear, hope, and perseverance. Each mortal heart contributed to the symphony of existence, and his vigilance ensured that their lives unfolded within the balance of order and freedom. Lightning, faint and controlled, danced along his fingertips, a reminder of his eternal power. Even in reflection, he could summon storms or illuminate darkness. Yet tonight, he chose restraint, allowing the natural flow of events to continue undisturbed. True authority, he reflected, lay not in domination but in guidance, patience, and insight. Lessons were more profound when discovered rather than imposed. Hermes appeared one final time with reports from distant lands. Zeus listened, nodding subtly, absorbing tales of triumph, error, and mortal perseverance. Subtle nudges had been given, trials tempered, courage inspired, and yet each soul had made its own choices. The delicate balance of influence and autonomy, the invisible dance of divine guidance, was the essence of his reign. As the hours passed, Zeus wandered through the quieter halls, observing gods tending to their domains. Demeter ensured crops would flourish even under moonlight. Dionysus guided celebratory spirits quietly, and Athena offered counsel on strategic matters unseen by mortals. Each act, though seemingly small, contributed to the intricate order of the cosmos, a reminder that leadership extended beyond force into the subtleties of presence and perception. The first chill of night brushed against Olympus, carrying scents of distant seas, forests, and fires. Zeus paused, feeling the pulse of the world in its entirety, the mingling of mortal ambition, divine influence, and the eternal rhythm of time. Even immortals, he mused, required reflection, patience, and occasional humility before the vast, interconnected web of existence. He ascended to the highest terrace once more, where stars shimmered brilliantly against the deep sky. Moonlight danced across marble, illuminating fountains, columns, and the faint ripple of wind in olive branches. In this quiet, elevated moment, Zeus considered the sum of the day. Storms calmed, mortals guided, heroes challenged, divine conflicts mediated. The tapestry of life had been tended with care, yet remained ever alive, ever changing. Finally, he allowed himself a deep breath, the tension of responsibility easing into serenity. Olympus hummed softly around him, mortals slept peacefully, and the night carried a sense of completion. Lessons had been delivered, courage tested, and the balance maintained. Zeus, even as king of gods, understood the fleeting beauty of each day, the profound responsibility of vigilance, and the subtle joy in observing life flourish under careful guidance. As he settled into his golden chamber, ambrosia lingering faintly in the air, Zeus closed his eyes. The day, though eternal in repetition, had been unique in its moments, challenges, and lessons. Even gods, he knew, found satisfaction in reflection, in observing the consequences of action and in understanding the delicate balance of influence, power, and restraint. Night had fully embraced the mortal lands, casting long shadows across forests, rivers, and villages. Olympus glimmered softly under moonlight, its golden halls calm and serene. Zeus moved silently through corridors, his presence quiet yet commanding, ensuring that the delicate balance of worlds remained unbroken, even in the absence of daylight. He paused atop the highest terrace, eyes sweeping across sleeping cities and twinkling rivers. The mortal realm was at rest, yet his vigilance never faltered. Every heartbeat, every faint whisper of wind, and every flicker of fire held significance. In these quiet hours, subtle adjustments could shape fate, strengthen courage, or prevent calamity without mortals ever realizing the touch of a god. Hermes appeared with urgent reports from distant lands, tales of travelers lost in night storms, heroes facing unseen dangers, and villages struggling under the weight of silence and darkness. Zeus absorbed each story, his mind mapping outcomes and determining precise, subtle interventions. Even at night, his responsibility as king of gods required action tempered with foresight and restraint. The stars above seemed to respond to his gaze, glittering in a silent symphony of light. Zeus extended his hand, and faint sparks of lightning danced along his fingertips, illuminating the terrace in soft, ethereal glow. He could summon storms, guide the tides, or illuminate paths for the brave. Yet tonight he chose subtlety, letting the threads of destiny unfold naturally under his watchful eyes. A mortal hero stumbled through dense forest shadows, facing unseen perils. Zeus sent a whispering wind to reveal hidden paths and a flicker of courage to steady the young adventurer's heart. Each intervention was invisible, each act deliberate, ensuring that the hero's growth remained entirely their own. Even a god's hand must be gentle when shaping the tapestry of mortal destiny. On Olympus, minor disturbances among the gods had quieted. Athena reviewed celestial strategies, Demeter ensured nocturnal crops thrived, and Apollo adjusted the music of the night sky. Zeus moved among them with calm authority, offering guidance and insight where needed. Harmony between gods was essential for mortal safety and the continuity of cosmic order, and his steady presence ensured balance remained intact. The distant whisper of storms reminded him of the lessons imparted earlier. Patience, humility, and courage were often revealed in subtle challenges. Zeus reflected that the greatest strength lay not in overwhelming power but in careful observation, timely action, and precise intervention. Mortals learned, grew, and triumphed not because he dictated outcomes, but because he guided them invisibly. A quiet moment drew him to a balcony overlooking a peaceful village below. Fires flickered gently in homes, and the faint murmur of prayers rose toward the heavens. Zeus considered each mortal life, the interweaving of deeds, courage, and choices. Each soul's journey contributed to the intricate harmony of existence, and his role as guardian and guide required both patience and wisdom, even in the dead of night. Lightning danced softly across the horizon, a silent signal of both power and presence. Zeus allowed it to ripple without destruction, a gentle reminder that even unseen, he watched. His mind roamed through the day's events. Heroes tested, mortals guided, storms calmed, and divine conflicts mediated. Each thread of influence had been exercised with care, leaving autonomy intact while shaping outcomes subtly yet profoundly. Finally, Zeus returned to his golden chamber, the quiet hum of Olympus surrounding him. The day had ended, yet eternity continued, a reminder that each moment mattered. Even in rest, vigilance persisted. He reflected on mortal courage, divine patience, and the intricate balance of existence. The king of gods had guided, observed, and intervened where needed, leaving worlds in harmony as night deepened, and peace settled across Olympus and the lands below. Late into the night, Olympus lay bathed in silver moonlight, the golden halls quiet except for the soft whisper of wind through olive trees. Zeus stood on the highest terrace, gazing across mortal lands below. Cities slept, rivers shimmered, forests murmured in gentle rhythm, and even in slumber, life pulsed with endless possibilities. He reflected on the day's events. Storms calmed, heroes guided, mortals tested, and divine disputes resolved. Each action, each intervention, however subtle, had contributed to balance and harmony. Zeus considered the ripples of consequence, feeling the satisfaction of duties well performed and the quiet weight of responsibility that stretched across eternity. Hermes returned one last time, bringing news of travelers safely guided home, heroes overcoming challenges, and villages restored to calm after trials. Zeus listened, nodding with approval. Even small mortal deeds were threads in the vast tapestry of fate, and careful guidance ensured that courage, wisdom, and humility grew unobserved, yet firmly rooted in the hearts of humans. The stars above seemed to shimmer with awareness, a silent acknowledgement of the king of gods. Zeus raised his hand, letting a faint spark of lightning dance across his fingertips. It illuminated the terrace softly, a reminder that even in stillness, he wielded authority over the skies and the elements. Power exercised with restraint was, he thought, the truest form of mastery. A lone hero wandered through distant hills, the weight of choice pressing upon him. Zeus considered subtle guidance, a whisper of wind, the gentle flicker of moonlight along the path. Each intervention was measured, ensuring the mortal's triumph and growth remained his own. The lesson of perseverance, courage, and insight was more meaningful when discovered rather than granted. On Olympus, the gods had retired to quieter tasks. Athena meditated over strategies, Demeter observed nocturnal crops, and Dionysus wandered among hidden groves, reflecting on mortal celebration. Zeus moved among them, offering insight, encouragement, or correction where necessary. Harmony required vigilance not only in mortal realms but also in the divine, ensuring subtle chaos never disrupted balance. The distant rumble of storms, softened to gentle echoes, reminded Zeus of earlier decisions. Nature itself bore lessons. Humility, patience, and courage were revealed through trials carefully orchestrated and subtly tempered. Even immortals learned the value of observation and restraint. Power was greatest when unseen, shaping worlds invisibly but profoundly. Moonlight reflected on rivers and seas, illuminating forests and villages alike. Zeus inhaled deeply, sensing the pulse of life across all realms. Every heartbeat, every quiet prayer, every act of bravery or folly contributed to the intricate rhythm of existence. The king of gods felt the satisfaction of having guided without overpowering, nudged without dominating, and observed without intrusion. Finally, Zeus ascended to the highest peak once more, feeling the cool night wind against his face. Thoughts of mortal courage, divine disputes, subtle interventions, and cosmic balance intertwined in his mind. Even for a god, the serenity of contemplation carried weight and reward. The day was ending, yet eternity stretched infinitely, offering new opportunities for guidance, observation, and reflection. As the first hint of dawn touched distant horizons, Zeus allowed himself a final, deep breath. Olympus glimmered softly, mortals rested, and harmony endured. The day's duties were complete, yet his vigilance persisted even in rest. With satisfaction and serenity, he prepared to greet the next day, knowing that each moment, each choice, and each subtle act of influence shaped worlds, guided destinies, and maintained the delicate balance of existence. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the world in soft hues of gold and rose. Olympus shimmered under the gentle awakening of day, and Zeus stood upon his highest terrace, observing the mortal realm. Even as the world stirred, his vigilant gaze traced the paths of travelers, heroes, and villagers alike. The mortal cities began to stir. Fishermen launched boats, farmers tended crops, and children laughed as they ran through sunlit streets. Zeus observed their movements with quiet satisfaction, noting the subtle influence of the lessons delivered through storms, guidance, and gentle challenges during the previous night. Each soul carried forward the imprint of courage, patience, and wisdom. Hermes appeared with early reports from distant lands. Mortals had overcome trials and darkness, navigated challenges unknown to others, and made choices that shaped destinies in unexpected ways. Zeus considered where subtle intervention might still be necessary, sending gentle winds, faint sparks of lightning, or whispers of insight. Every action was deliberate, ensuring freedom of choice while maintaining harmony. The rivers glimmered in the first light, reflecting the awakening sky. Zeus extended his hand, and a faint flicker of lightning danced across his fingertips, a reminder that even at dawn, his power influenced the world subtly. Mortals could not see him, yet the very elements responded, shaping their actions, guiding their courage, and preserving balance between fortune and folly. A young hero, unaware of the divine gaze upon him, navigated a narrow mountain pass. Zeus allowed a ray of sunlight to illuminate the safest path, a quiet nudge of guidance. The mortal's triumph would be earned entirely through courage and perseverance, yet shaped subtly by the god's wisdom. Even small gestures carried profound impact, demonstrating the invisible hand of divine influence. On Olympus, the gods began their morning routines. Athena planned strategies and observed mortal affairs. Demeter ensured crops flourished under the new light, and Apollo adjusted celestial music to inspire mortals. Zeus moved among them, offering counsel and subtle guidance. Harmony required constant vigilance, and the start of a new day demanded renewed attention from both gods and king alike. The gentle wind carried the scent of flowers, distant seas, and fertile earth. Zeus inhaled deeply, sensing the rhythm of life. Mortals awoke to opportunities for courage, choice, and growth. Each act, each decision, each trial carefully orchestrated or left to chance, shaped the complex web of existence. Zeus's hand was present in subtlety, allowing the universe to unfold with quiet elegance. Lightning flickered faintly across distant clouds, a reminder that power existed not only to guide but to protect. Zeus allowed the phenomenon to inspire awe, humility, and reflection among mortals, teaching lessons without destruction. Even the most invisible acts of divine influence carried profound weight, shaping hearts, choices, and destinies with precision. By mid-morning, the world below was fully awake. Villages bustled with life, heroes embarked on quests, and the balance of mortal endeavors harmonized with divine observation. Zeus reflected on the day's accomplishments and subtle interventions. Harmony between mortal effort and divine guidance had been maintained, and the lessons of courage, patience, and wisdom carried forward into a new cycle. Finally, Zeus paused atop Olympus, letting the morning sun illuminate his golden form. The first day's light mingled with the final remnants of night, symbolizing the balance of darkness and illumination, of challenge and guidance. With satisfaction, he observed the world awakening, knowing that his vigilance, subtle influence, and wisdom had ensured the continued harmony of mortal and divine realms. As the sun climbed higher, Olympus glowed in warm light, golden halls shimmering and fountains sparkling. Zeus stood upon the highest terrace, surveying mortal lands below. The day had been filled with trials, guidance, and subtle interventions. Now, the world moved forward in harmony, the results of his vigilance evident in every brave act, every choice, and every moment of courage. He reflected on the hero who had faced shadowed forests, the villages tested by storms, and the countless mortals navigating challenges unseen by others. Every subtle nudge, whisper of wind, or flicker of lightning had been timed with care, leaving mortals to claim their own triumphs. Zeus felt a deep satisfaction in the balance achieved and the lessons imparted. On Olympus, the gods resumed quiet duties. Athena, Apollo, and Demeter worked in harmony, guided subtly by Zeus's presence. Conflicts had been resolved, and every act of influence had strengthened unity. Leadership, Zeus knew, was as much about observation and subtle guidance as it was about power. His wisdom had ensured that divine authority and mortal free will coexisted in delicate equilibrium. The mortal world thrived under his watch. Rivers glistened, forests whispered, and villages flourished. Heroes embarked on new quests, carrying courage and lessons learned. Even small mortal deeds had become part of a vast tapestry, a living proof that divine guidance, though invisible, could shape destinies profoundly without removing freedom of choice. Zeus allowed a faint flicker of lightning to dance across the sky, illuminating distant clouds and reminding all who looked upon them of unseen vigilance. Power, he reflected, was most meaningful when exercised with restraint. Influence could inspire, teach, or protect, yet must remain subtle, ensuring mortals grew and learned in ways that honored their courage and wisdom. Finally, he turned inward, contemplating the eternal cycle of day and night, mortal endeavor, and divine oversight. The harmony of Olympus and mortal lands, maintained through careful observation and subtle action, filled him with quiet pride. Each day, though part of eternity, was unique, offering new challenges, lessons, and opportunities for growth, for both gods and mortals alike. As the day drew to its close, Zeus allowed himself a deep breath, feeling the pulse of life across realms. The first light of tomorrow already hinted at new adventures, new trials, and new moments of courage. Yet for now, peace settled across Olympus and the mortal world. The king of gods stood tall, satisfied that balance, wisdom, and harmony had been maintained once more. And so, the day of Zeus concluded, not in grand spectacle, but in the quiet power of vigilance, subtle guidance, and the profound fulfillment of a god who shaped worlds with care, wisdom, and unseen influence. Mortals slept, heroes rested, and Olympus shimmered in eternal serenity, a kingdom secure under the watchful eyes of its mighty king.